Conversation next, a stunning allegation. Joe Biden taking foreign money to shape U.S. policy. Also stunning, I would argue more stunning, the Republicans making this claim admit they have no evidence, just an unverified tip. So a major escalation now in Republicans' investigations into President Biden and his family. The House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has issued a new subpoena to the FBI citing a whistleblower complaint. Comer and Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa writing to the FBI demanding a form they say, quote, describes an alleged criminal scheme involving then Vice President Biden and a foreign national relating to the exchange of money for policy decisions. The White House is dismissing the claim and says Republicans are, quote, trafficking in innuendo. Let's get the details. CNN Sarah Murray joins us now with the latest. Sarah, what's at play here?
Well, I mean, look, this is an explosive claim coming from two Republicans who have spent a whole lot of time investigating the Bidens. And they say they've heard from an unnamed whistleblower who insists the FBI has some kind of evidence that Joe Biden, when he was vice president, was involved in this criminal scheme that involved paying off a foreign national. Now, we should note they don't offer any evidence to back this claim up. They don't offer it in their press release. They don't offer it in subsequent interviews that Chuck Grassley has done on this. But Comer still has issued this subpoena to the FBI. He's asking for documents that are supposedly related to this. And these documents, John, are the kinds of forms the FBI would fill out when they have someone who comes in. They're memorializing an interview, or they're trying to take information down from a confidential source. But essentially what these forms do is they document allegations. They don't document information that's been corroborated by the FBI. So again, these are unverified claims. And we should know that while James Comer has been doing this Biden investigation, he has done plenty of subpoenas quietly outside of the public view. So it was a clear, deliberate political move for him and Chuck Grassley to decide they were going to go out publicly, announce the subpoena publicly with no information at this point to back it up, John.
You're right, calculated decision. Sarah Murray, important reporting. Thank you. Let's continue the conversation with me to share their reporting and their insights. Sabrina Siddiqui of the Wall Street Journal, Zolan Kano-Youngs of the New York Times, and Camila De Chalis of the Washington Post. Carrie Cordero is still with us. Let me start with you. So the White House knew this was coming when the Republicans took the House. And as Sarah notes, some of this has been done privately. And the White House has said, if we can, we'll try to cooperate. When they issue a subpoena to the FBI and then essentially say publicly, we think Joe Biden's a crook, what does the White House do?
Well, White House spokesman Ian Sams has slammed these allegations and accused Republicans of floating innuendo that is in turn being amplified by their right-wing allies, that's what the White House is saying, and tying it back to what they say is a years-long effort by Republicans in Congress to advance what the White House says are politically motivated attacks against the president and his family. Both the White House and Democrats see this as nothing more than a distraction that they say is really designed to deflect from the policy debates on Capitol Hill and the fact that they believe Republicans have not put forward a clear policy agenda. I think, ultimately the White House tends to ignore these investigations when it comes to publicly commenting on them. But right now, he just announced his reelection campaign, President Biden, and the case they're making is this is really about appeasing the Republican base. Most of the American electorate is not interested in these investigations.
I'll come back to some of that and the reaction in a minute, but I asked Carrie to stay for the legal perspective on this. Here's what they're looking for. It's a June 2020 FD 1023 form. Form documents an interview with a source. The form is possibly classified. Comer said a May 10 deadline. So if you're in the government, there are hundreds and hundreds of these forms. People call up all the time and say, this person did this. You got to look into it if it's serious. Do you at the FBI say, here it is, even if it exists? Or do you say, hold a hearing, let me testify under oath, we looked into this and it's bogus? What do you do?
Yeah, well, they have to look at what the particular piece of information is within the FBI and within the Justice Department. And one of the questions that I would have is this something that actually resulted in an investigation? Because if it's an actual investigation that was followed up on, in other words, a complaint that was made to the FBI that then triggered the opening of a threat assessment or preliminary investigation or a full investigation, then that would be the time that the FBI would say, this is the subject of an ongoing investigation and we don't normally provide information, certainly not publicly. Then there's the option of whether or not they would offer to do a briefing to the Oversight Committee, but they're going to be very careful if they think that this is part of just a political inquiry and not substantive oversight.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth. You mean they'd be more likely to get that briefing if they asked for it privately as opposed to doing what they did publicly?
Again, it depends on whether or not it's an actual investigation. Right. But yes, it matters whether they think that this is just politics or whether there's some actual oversight being done.
And again, if there's something to it, it should be investigated. They have a hearing. They can put people under oath and get to it. But the way the Republicans operate is what makes this town interesting right now. This is Senator Ron Johnson. Among the Republicans who keep saying that we see smoke, maybe there's fire. Listen to how he characterizes this.
What about the allegations? Will the American people see them?
Well, we'll have to see what's in them. To see whether they're credible allegations, whether they connect to other wrongdoing by the Biden family.
And if they turn out to not be credible, sir, will your colleagues acknowledge that, you think? Only got a couple seconds left.
That'll be up to them. They're the ones that will get the documents.
At least he was asked. If it turns out not to be credible, will your colleagues raise their hand and say, oh, we made a mistake here? I wouldn't hold your breath for it. But there is this pattern now. I'm a dinosaur, so it's newish to me, of let's announce the verdict and then hold the trial. You heard he says we don't know if these are credible, but then he went on to say if they connect to other wrongdoing by the Biden family. This is how they do it nowadays.
Yes, you had Senator Grassley talk to reporters earlier today, and even in that, we asked him point blank whether he's talked to the whistleblower that is providing information about this alleged scheme. And, he said that he just didn't answer the question. He kind of talked around it. This is not surprising that Republicans are investigating any allegation into Biden, whether it's substantiated or not, because they said that once they took back control of the House, that they were going to do it. What is interesting to see is that there are several congressional Republicans that are saying, hey, I know we said we were going to carry out these investigations, but there are several pressing issues at hand. There's the looming bank crisis. There's the debt ceiling crisis that still needs to be addressed and could possibly lead to the U.S. default. And so they're just kind of saying, I know we're investigating these investigations, but there's other pressing issues at hand, and constituents are telling us that we need to focus on those as well.
I think part of the challenge is, though, when those Republicans say that, they probably are from vulnerable or competitive areas, and you have someone like Comer who goes home to a district he almost can't lose unless he gets primaried from the right. But my question, you make a great point about how the White House wants to just say most of this is political bogus. But Joe Biden is president of the United States because of 100,000 votes spread around 6 states. I mean, we live in such a competitive environment. Do they worry that they need to be more forceful in answering this stuff, even if they think it's bogus? Because if it sways a small amount of independent or movable voters.
I think there was definitely initial anxiety in the White House. I mean, we know that they were bringing in more resources for their legal counsel. I know in the example of DHS, when it came to the investigation into Ali Mayorkas, that DHS was preparing and having meetings as well with the White House to kind of prepare for these investigations. There was definitely an initial concern about how much time this would take, these investigations would take, as well as some of the headlines that would get out there. But now fast forward to now, as Sabrina was saying, look, you had expectations put out there by Republicans. Before the Mayorkas investigation, they said they wanted to impeach him. Before any of these allegations are unveiled, you already have them coming out with a verdict, as you were saying. But thus far, the investigations really haven't shown all that much, which has led to memos that you were reading from me and Sam's basically saying, well, what is there here?
What was the old campaign line a long time ago? Where's the beef? That was Gary Hart, very, very long time ago.